Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Roots of Success podcast. I am your host, Nate the Great, and today we have a very, very special guest. Okay, I actually connected with him about a week and a half just on Instagram, and oh my goodness, his energy is absolutely out of this world. He's incredible. He's done some beyond amazing things. And my guy, Spencer Barnes, I'm so glad that I can have you on the show, brother.
Thank you, Nate. It's such a delight to be here with you. When Nate reached out to me, I immediately was like, who's this guy? What's he all about? And I was immediately drawn to and impressed by what you are doing, this movement of reaching into and sort of analyzing and looking at the roots of success and the deeper part of success and what that really means. So thank you for having me on. And to all of you listeners and viewers out there, we're excited to dive into this.
Hey, you're in for one heck of a treat today, I'll tell you that. And again, Spencer, I appreciate you taking the time out to do this interview. I know you're a super busy dude, so I appreciate it. So as always, I kind of like to start the podcast off basically about, where the person comes from. Because a lot of people, they look at success differently, but, the main thing is they look at the pinnacle of where that person's at. But I always say, it's not always about where they're at. It's how they got to where they're at, the roots to where they are right now. So kind of, walk us through a little bit, your story, where you're from, and what got you to doing what you're doing right now,
So my background is kind of unique. I grew up in Provo, Utah, which is south of Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And a lot of people's next question is, so you must be Mormon. I was raised Mormon. I have one mom, but I had three brothers. I have three brothers and three sisters, and I'm the third. And we grew up in just this really kind of typical Happy Valley family neighborhood in this quaint little house. I mean, a tiny little house. When I recently drove through there, and I was shocked at just how little this house was for 7 kids. I don't know how my parents did it, but because of how we grew up in a neighborhood with lots of kids, we were often playing with neighborhood kids, and also growing up Mormon, a lot of these families, they have, the kids are in a sport or a musical instrument or dance class or something that is beyond just the regular school. So I was constantly drawing and painting as a kid. And I think part of that is because when I looked at the world around me, I spent a lot of time in the imagination space and a lot of time looking at some of the things in the world around me that just didn't make sense. From the time I was born, I felt a lot kind of like an alien. I thought, what is this world that I'm in? I don't know if I belong here entirely. And B, the rules didn't all make sense to me. It just seemed very foreign that people would be separated into classes and races. And, I grew up in a very heavily religious background, which I credit a lot of my some of my core values to, but I've since, I say, graduated from the religious structure. But I'm grateful for that experience because it helped me have a background to push off of and step into who I am today. So as far as my background and what opened up and activated my call into artistry, I remember when I was 6 years old, my mom took me to a community play. It was Oliver. It was the first play I'd ever seen, and I was absolutely enthralled at the magic of storytelling on the stage. And, like a lot of young people, we're drawn to movies and TV and our favorite singers and actors because they have the ability to transport us. So similarly, I spent a lot of time drawing and painting and thought that if somehow I could make life and the world around me more beautiful, that life would be more beautiful and more rich and more meaningful. So I think that's where the initial spark of that quest started, but I never ever would have thought in a million years, especially even when I graduated from film school, that if you told me in a year's time I'd be working with some of the most recognizable faces on the planet, I wouldn't have believed you. So that was sort of my early childhood experience, was growing up, and I ended up doing lots of theater, lots of performance for years and years. That's all I did. I thought I was going to be an actor, and I was in probably over 100 productions between the age of 8 and 23. Spent a lot of time in music as well, music and then sports. Mainly, not a lot of team sports. I did a little bit of football and soccer, but I ended up doing a lot of running, one-on-one sports, things like that. That seemed to be where I thrived. So anyhow, when I went to film school, I didn't want to study acting, so I thought, let's study film producing and directing. And while there, I had this incredible professor. I think we can all attribute, at least many of us, some success to one of those teachers, one of those special teachers that saw something in us that maybe we didn't see in ourselves and encouraged us down a path that ultimately led us into maybe our chosen career or took us on a different turn that changed the outcome of our life. So this was one of those teachers. Her name was Janet Swenson. And I had, as part of my curriculum, I had to take a makeup course, a costume design course for production design. And I thought, makeup will be easy. I've been having to do makeup for plays. And of course, as a kid, I loved Halloween. I loved creating creatures and monsters, often to my mother's dismay. But anyhow, when I went into that, I didn't see it because I thought everyone could draw and paint. I thought everyone, it just made sense to me. I had this little photography business when I was 19 years old. And a lot of my friends who were actors or who wanted to be models, I noticed that the difference between them and some of the actors in the magazines was their hair and makeup. So I would finesse it, and it just made sense to me. And so when I was in film school, I quickly became known as the makeup guy.
Okay.
And that, where people wanted me to do like production design work, art direction on their films. So funny enough, my colleagues in film school the last year were all I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite. John Heater, Jared Hess, all those incredibly talented students were my colleagues. We all graduated together.
Holy cow!
Yeah. So when I moved to California, a lot of those people they went on to directing commercials and starting more projects. Of course, Jared Hess did another film, Nacho Libre. I didn't work with him on that, but they would parlay my name around, and quickly I was actually pitching TV and movie ideas, and quickly I became sought after for makeup, for my makeup skills. So within maybe 9 months of moving to LA when I was 26, which was 16 years ago, I got an agent, and that's when things really started to change.
Really? Wow. That's it. The thing, Spencer, is you said 6?
Mm-hmm.
6 years old. I mean, that's because I look at, where people are at in terms of, and it's like a pattern. They've realized at the young age that they're not just good, but they're great at something. And seeing you over the years, I mean, you've worked with some monumental people. I mean, name a few of the people you.
So it's funny, you honed in on something that occurred to me, what I was drawn to. I think, although I loved the artistry, what I was most drawn to was the characters and the stories and the idea that you could transform someone into something more or different, or bring out an element in them that maybe was not so visible on the surface. So for me, makeup quickly became a means to an end of expression in drawing out these elements from people, and I was good at it. So for me, some of the names, so when I moved to LA, I told you I would not believe if you told me within a year I'd be working with some of the most famous faces on the planet. I quickly started working with Paris and Nicole, and this was at the end of season 5 of Simple Life. I went on to do the whole season 6 with them. So I would spend a lot of days just getting them ready for their reality show. I started working with this new singer with beautiful curly hair who was just 15 years old, named Taylor Swift. And then another friend called, and I was working with this new girl who they were touting would be a big pop star, and she had this song that was just starting to jingle on the radio called "I Kissed a Girl," and that was Katy Perry. It just the list went on and on. This other young girl named that I knew of her father, actually, Billy Ray. I grew up watching him, and she had her show Hannah Montana, of course, and today we know her as Miley Cyrus. So this is sort of where the genesis of all this started. I was thrust at a very early age of my career into the heartbeat of all these major budding careers of major stars. At the time, Paris Hilton, and to this day, is the most recognizable face on the planet, believe it or not, across the world. She was literally on every magazine cover during that period, and she's worked with a lot of amazing artists over the years, but I was fortunate to spend a lot of time that year working with her on some incredibly important projects. I don't know if you remember, during this time and it's funny to me now, I can talk about this, I respect my clients' privacy a lot, but this was something that was dragged into the public eye, but now in California and in many states, something like marijuana is legal. Yeah. And now I just laugh to think that it was ever illegal and villainized the way it was. But as you know, Paris had some challenges with the law at the time. But I was with her. She called on me, and I was with her when she ended up going into. She planned it on a day of a big award show. She went to the award show and did sort of this stunt where they thought she was there. She did the red carpet at the MTV Awards, and then she slipped out and checked into jail so that she would be sort of not followed by paparazzi. And then when she did get out finally, she called on me again for her Larry King interview. And I also went to her grandfather, Hilton's home, where she first came, and to see her mother, Kathy, and her reconnect. It was a very special energy to be called and trusted to be part of something like that. That was very special. And probably very challenging for her to have to deal with all that at a young age. But I'll just say a little more about Paris. Paris, I have a huge amount of respect for. She's someone who, was nailed as the party girl, but what I love about her is she's truly a celebrator of life. And she's continued on in major ways, building a global brand of her image with music, with fashion, and she truly is someone who knows how to celebrate life, and I love that about her. So moving forward, I started working with lots of TV stars that had multi-season careers. I worked a lot with Emily Deschanel on Bones when that was a really big show. Shows like 24, CSI. And then I started working with an actress that was fairly new at the time named Meghan Markle, who was on a show called Suits. And this went on. I'd worked with her for some of her press things over the next several years that went forward. I also was working a lot with Channing Tatum and Jenna Dewan, who met on Step Up and then unfolded, a big career for both of them. Anyway, while I've worked with a lot of incredible faces, one of the things that I have learned about the beauty industry, or through the beauty industry, I guess, is that the trusted position of an artist to step in and help people, often with me, it's mostly women, but I've worked with a lot of men too, helping women tell their story and feel ready to take on their day. And, so I appreciate that trusted position. And I kid you not, I swear, when I was starting out, I thought every day this will be the last time that I'm called. Why are they calling me? But they kept calling, and things moved forward. And now, 16 years later, I'm still taking care of a lot of incredible women in the incredible entertainment industry here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, just the lineup that you have and the people and the experience alone. Because, I mean, that's the thing. It takes somebody special to be in a position, especially over the years that you've been in, to work with these kinds of people. And I want to hit on this like on a deep level. Again, it takes somebody special. Like, they ain't just going to somebody like a friend that's good or that's average. They're going to somebody that's great. And I'm not just saying great at like the artistry. I'm saying great as a person. Your energy, everything about you, it has to be on point, because these are people the high of their levels, right? This isn't like your next door neighbor or anything like that. So Spencer, for your gift, let's hit on this. With you working with the people that you worked with, what is it within you personally that you feel has continued throughout like your success, and that they felt, okay, Spencer's he's the guy that we're gonna call. He is the one. Nobody else but Spencer. Because you've had the thoughts go through, man, this could be my last one. It's normal. We're human beings, right?
Yeah.
So what is it about you that continued them to use your services and you as a person?
That's a great $1 million question. I've often wondered that. And I would sometimes look at friends who I also knew wanted to really do well in the industry, that were also makeup artists. And I was rooting for them, of course, and would sometimes even pass them jobs when I was double or triple booked. And they just had a harder time getting even an agent. And I thought, what's different about me and them? Why they have similar talent, or so it appeared. But what was different about me that made people call me over and over instead of just any other artist with similar talent? And what I realized is it's kind of a threefold. Let me just take you back to my childhood. One of the things that drew me to acting and storytelling was this endless curiosity to understand myself, I think. And we all go through periods of life where we're so hungry to become who we really are meant to be, and we go through the dark night of the soul, so to speak, where we're deeply excavating. And what I learned is that people are a lot like gems. We are complex. We can appear very simple on the outside, but we have a lot of complexities. And when you have a gem that's been cut and polished, you can tilt it in many ways, and the light hits it. And that's sort of what it's like when I do a person's makeup. It isn't that I'm going to illuminate the entirety of who they are in this one moment, but by seeing them, beholding them in a certain way and drawing out a certain aspect of who they are and bringing that to life and giving that color, it's like it allows them to step into and express an aspect of the self. And then there's also this other side of what I do as an artist. It is being in the person's very personal space. Often I'm in their homes, or dealing with sensitive business things. They may be on the call with an agent or manager negotiating a deal. And so to be in the center of like major entourages, there is a certain level of trust. And part of what I do is to sort of bring a vibration that helps people, because some of these people have crazy, stressful lives, and they're doing major things, stepping in front of millions of people. And so, the pressure is definitely real for some of them. But what I've learned about true stars is their ability to step into, even in the face of fear, courageously into their true light and power and just be. And so I quickly realized that my role is to help them calm, center, ground, and clear all the frequency, the noise around them. And if I could help them do that and just connect to their inner self, when they would step out in front of the people, the camera, the interviews, whatever it was they were doing, they would be that much more radiant and they would shine in their power. So that was something that I learned early to safeguard that energy with my clients is very important. I make it a point to not get into negativity or gossip, to focus on what is the most important thing for them right now at that moment, and help them get into the space. The heart space first is the most important. The gut and heart space, if someone's a ball of anxiety, they're not going to be in the right place to flow with their work. So getting the gut and the heart space to be grounded and clear, then getting into expressing their truth, their true voice, their true, some people have different ways of expressing their talent. Like one of my most cherished relationships is with Julianne Hough, who I had the privilege of meeting 12 years ago now. Interestingly, we grew up just miles apart. We're 12 years apart, but we grew up miles apart and didn't ever meet in Utah. In fact, I wanted to go to the same performing arts high school she went to, but my dad didn't let me. He wanted me to focus on my academics. So we met in California on this Juicy Fruit commercial.
Juicy Fruit, that's funny.
And she was this dazzling golden ball of energy and light that was just so flirty and fun and free. And I just had so much fun working with her. I was like, who is this girl? I didn't even know who she was, really. And I just remember thinking about her a lot after that day, even just thinking, what a magical soul, what a beautiful girl. This girl's got something special. She's got a real mission here. And it's been nothing short of magical watching her career unfold. And it's like right now she's going through this whole new renaissance and rebirth with a career on top of a career right now. And so she's a dancer, an actress, a singer, and as you know, she recently released a new single called Transform. And watching her and being part of her story and supporting and fanning the energy of her incredible, beautiful career and her interpersonal relationships as well has been also a huge inspiration for me. So I feed off of the energy of my clients. I sort of assess them and what they're doing and how I can help magnify and shine the light on what it is that they're undertaking. And that's been kind of the heartbeat of my artistry. Yes, it's a craft, and yes, I could teach you a lot of how-tos about makeup, but really there's this whole other level that is the unseen part of artistry, of cultivating and drawing out real beauty. Mm-hmm. And that's, I guess, something that has been a process of discovery and unfolding for me, but it's now something that I like to help my clients tune into and tap into for themselves so that they can claim their truest essence and stand in power in whatever it is they're doing. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the role I take, maybe not so clearly to them, but that's important for me. When I step into a space with a client, I like to make sure that that's all I'm worried about, that I'm there to attend on them. And, some days are long run shoots and, we have our phones and things, but when I'm doing the makeup, that's a very important time and space. And I really just try to listen carefully to them, ask them questions, work in a collaborative energy with the other team players. And that's super huge and important too, is being able to collaborate with some of the best hairstylists, photographers, and fashion stylists of the world. Working on these teams, you learn a lot about all the different ways you can tell a story and all the different ways you can bring someone's essence to life. So that's a little bit about my process, I guess.
That's incredible. I mean, just like you said, you're in their space and, just the family thing you were saying with like Paris. And I mean, that's sacred to a lot of people, especially that are, dominating their industry and are masters of their game. So whenever you're with them, being present and you're doing their makeup and everything, there's a lot of fans, there's a lot of, supporters, but you have that sacred moment with them where it's just you, them, there might be other people around them, but they trust you on doing the makeup, right? The artistry, on them where they feel as if, okay, like I can be vulnerable. And it's hard. It's hard for just anybody to be vulnerable, especially I feel like men have a hard time with that, especially. And they kind of let ego get in the way a bit. Because I feel like with men, it's that thing where I gotta be the tough guy. Yeah, like I'm strong. Yeah, I can't be emotional. Tough, yeah, I can't let any kind of female energy come out of me because I feel as if I do, it's gonna go against my manhood. Yeah, and even myself, I'm just like, man. I mean, I cry. It's okay to cry. You ain't gotta hide it. And
I love that you brought that up because we haven't brought this up, and some of you may know that know my career, but for those of you who don't, being raised LDS and then also realizing at a young age that I was different, and by that I mean I later came to understand in myself that I'm homosexual. I identify with attractions to same-sex energy. So for me, that was a discovery in and of itself. Yeah. But I fought hard against the sort of a toxic masculine structure that was imposed through society, even through religion. And I've learned that one of the strongest kinds of man on the planet, and women really, are those who are able to access both the divine feminine and masculine energies within, because we all have them. Gender is a function of our biology, but when you go into the spiritual aspect of who we are, we all have the yin and the yang energy. And when we shut off one of those aspects, we're actually creating a toxic, false version of ourselves because we're blocking access to the greater part of who we really are. So to get a little deeper into the spiritual aspects of being, and why artistry is a huge means to an end for me, and that end is tapping into authentic self-expression. I learned from my own experiences of being, I was on the outside for a long time. I was made fun of. I was different, painfully so at a young age. And, so for me, just to find my own voice, I definitely had those years that I had to go and find my own voice. But through that, I learned to love and accept myself. And so whenever I sit with clients, I've had clients from so many different backgrounds, every race imaginable, both, gender, straight, gay, trans, you name it. And at the end of the day, that's all just external. When you look into the essence of who someone is, their soul, and you can actually help bring that essence to the surface, magic happens. That's the magic zone. And it doesn't matter who you ask any successful person, they all have coaches, they all have mentors that help bring out their best talent. And so I see my role as an artist as someone who helps foster and draw out. I'll find myself asking them questions, sometimes deep questions, sometimes questions that require some vulnerability. And I find that they open up when I've also shared something that is a vulnerable aspect of self, and something magical happens. The walls come down, and then the magic of who that person comes out. So I think it's important for us all to realize that there's more in life that connects us. There's more about us when you get past the seeming differences on the outside, the external differences. There's so much more that connects us and makes us alike than there ever will be differences within us. So when we work with teams, when we work with one-on-one, when we work with our communities, our workplace, our relationships, our families, our friendships, and we tap into that, magic happens. And so again, back to my artistry, that's what I want to engender in my work is the recognition of the divine within us all, the recognition that we're all in process. We don't have to pass final judgment on ourselves or others. We can allow people to be in the process of unfolding who they are. And that's what's so fun. And that's what's so rewarding when you're able to sit with people during those difficult, challenging periods and then watch that hard work, that deep inner work go to work and then come out and be expressed in talent ways. Like, obviously I deal with a lot of people that are in the public eye, but some of my favorite clients have also been just everyday people. Early in my career, I'll just rewind you back to before I moved to California, I realized that I knew nothing about cosmetics.
Wow.
I was really good with application. I understood color theory, light, dark. I could manipulate a face. But I didn't know about cosmetics. So I took a job in a cosmetic store in a mall, at a cosmetic counter for the winter season, because I thought as long as I don't care what counter I work for, even if I just take a job, I can play with makeup and figure out a little more about cosmetics. Huh. And it was at that time that a photographer who wanted to become a beauty, I don't know if you remember back way before social media. Well, you probably don't. I'm dating myself. I'm 42. But back then, it was these beautiful glossy magazines and billboards where we'd see these gorgeous beauty ads. And they sort of just appeared. And when, at least for me, when I would see these, I couldn't see the mechanism or the magic behind the image. I didn't know how many people were involved in creating and crafting these beautiful images. They just sort of were magical and they appeared. And so when I met this photographer who wanted to shoot campaigns like that, I was like, I want to do makeup for those. Okay. Well, she asked me if I would do it, and I said, yeah. So that was what sort of turned me on to beauty makeup. When I started makeup, I just wanted to point this out. I was actually doing creature effects, age makeup, zombies, burns, cuts, bruises, all these more character kinds of things. That's what I thought I was going to do. It wasn't until the end of college that I started doing beauty makeup. So
that's intriguing.
Yeah. It was doing Everyday's Women at makeup counters. Quickly, people would flock to, whenever I was there, they would come and flock and want me to do their makeup. And then the stores would love it because the people would buy whatever I put on them because they looked so great and felt great. And that sort of, looking back, indicated there was something special there.
Yeah.
And that sort of opened the door.
Wow. Yeah, because you didn't start just on you started with what you mentioned, and it's not like you're doing that now. You started, you just did it. And I think something else, Spencer, that is a testament to your greatness is you owned up at a very early age to who you are.
It wasn't easy. Let me just tell you, I was embarrassed. Where I grew up, it's one of the whitest places on the earth.
Yeah.
And not very friendly back then, at least. I mean, things have changed a lot, gratefully, unfortunately. But I was a fish out of water, and to be seen doing makeup, it freaked me out. I did not want to be associated as an artist because the stigma was that, oh, well, if you're involved in, it was bad enough being in theater, but to be seen as someone painting on ladies' makeup, people would ask me if I was a drag queen or like, did you put on your mother's makeup? How did you learn how to do this? And I didn't really have an answer, but it was none of those things. It literally came out of a passion and painting and drawing as a kid. And then the satisfaction of taking someone and going, I can see you and unlock your beauty. Let me do this. Let me just do this. And then seeing these women go, I didn't know I could even look like this.
Right.
And then it's like, I know you've seen this or you've maybe even had this happen when you put on this jacket or a new pair of shoes and suddenly you're like a new person. You walk differently. You carry yourself differently. Yes. Yeah. It was a lot like that. It was a little bit of that story of Dumbo and the Magic Feather where by showing them this side of themselves, they would step into the energy of that. And it was always there all along. Someone just had to I see myself also as an artist as a mirror. I'm actually beholding what I see in them and bringing it to the surface, giving visual radiance to what I'm already seeing. And that's really fun. That's really exciting. For me, that's part of the success that I get out of being a makeup artist. Aside from having great rates, aside from working with famous faces, it's seeing that process and being part of it. It's just fun for me.
Man, that's the mirror thing. My gosh, that really sticks out to me because it takes a special person to even be a mirror. Because a lot of people, it's all about them. So the fact that you identified at an early age what you're gifted at and you owned up to who you are, that's so impressive to me because it wasn't that early on for me, but I realized whenever I was 15, 16 years old that I was an outlier, meaning I wasn't just about to, go get a job and go to college and all that, right? Yeah. I realized that I was meant to do greater things, being from a conservative town. You being, Provo, Utah. I'm from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. So there's Mennonites and Amish where I'm from. Where you're, the Mormons and everything, like, technically we're not supposed to be here. Yeah. Right? And the fact of where we're from, that's also a driving factor. Because I can imagine, being born in a bigger city or something, there's a reason why a lot of these success stories and the people that are dominating their lanes, and you hear about, man, it's like the same thing. They're from like a small place. I'm not saying with everybody, but they're from a place where it's uncommon to be successful. Yeah, it's uncommon. And the fact that they've gotten here, there's a reason behind that because, I know we were talking a little bit earlier about, and you were mentioning just like, there's a fire inside of me. Like you see that. And I feel as if that fire it goes back to the roots. And that's the reason I named it the roots of success, because the roots, you don't see the roots. You don't see people's, you don't see fire just come. It's what's in them. And it's just, man, it's just inspiring, brother, seeing that. And yeah.
You just tapped into some really profound things. I read a book. I have this really incredible aunt. She's never been married. She's very intuitive, and she was someone who saw this unusual artistic quality in me and would encourage it at a young age. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what she was doing. She gave me this book when I moved to LA, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was this woman who spent 20 years, this professor who spent 20 years looking at this very issue, the roots of success and why. And she actually looked at a lot of groups in both California and New York. Why is it that a disproportionate number of Jewish people, Mormon people, Persian Jews, Nigerians, she went into specific groups of people. Why is it that they have a disproportionate amount of what we label as success, highly successful, wealthy? What is it about their cultures that seems to spawn this as a disproportionately high number? And she found some startling things. And when I looked back at my own roots, I could see some of those comparisons. When you have people who flee from a country to have a chance to build a new kind of life, the American dream, the sacrifices that I hear from a lot of my dear friends who are second generation to immigrants, that their parents made for them just to get them through school so that they could have a life their parents were never able to have. I mean, it moves me, but there's something magical about that energy of being reduced to almost poverty levels. And then it's this weird compression energy, or to be racially or religiously, or in my case, religiously, and I identified as a gay person, was a minority in a minority group. That something in that drove me to discover and unlock myself in a way that maybe I wouldn't have if I had been born in a different environment. I don't know. I often thought of that and have attributed some of that. But now that I've been here in LA and worked with so many people and have so many friends, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's what gave me the perfect platform to push off of. But I do remember when I was just like you, I was asking Nate before we started this about his story and what led him to come to California. I remember even at the age of 8, having dreams of flying over orange groves and palm trees and vineyards and the ocean and the sunshine. California just called to me. It is a land of opportunity. It's known as a place that attracts people from all over because of the magic that's here. So I almost moved to New York, but I think living here, when I was in Utah, my talent was marginal. It was, I was doing makeup in a mall on women, I wasn't making great money doing makeup in Utah. Mm. I was selling door-to-door alarm systems to put myself through college.
Wow. ADT, or what was it?
It was the ADT, and then First Line Security was the company, and we sold Monotronics and ADT. They had different vendors they moved through from year to year. But, again, I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. I had to figure out my path and open the door and just trust that it would in time open up. So there was a point for me, as I'm sure there was for you, when it was okay, it's time to leave the nest. It's time to leave the camp. I'm so glad for everything that I've learned, but now it's time to forge my own path. And that's when I moved to California. And I never looked back.
That's it. And then you had the faith to do that, because enough was enough being in the mall, and doing the makeup, and you had to take a big risk. I like I mentioned earlier, we're technically not supposed to be here where we're from.
Yeah.
Because people call us crazy, going to LA? Well, why? But they can't fathom that. And then they see everything that we've been gifted with going into place, then now it makes sense. It's interesting. Spencer, I want to talk a little bit, I know music is dear to you.
Yes.
Right. I know music is definitely something that you're very passionate about. For those of you who might be unaware of it, but Spencer's been doing some special things with music, and I'll kind of have him touch base on what he's been up to.
So we've talked a lot about vibes, picking up on people's energy.
Yeah.
Vibes are super important to me. I'm sensitive to other people's energy. Some might call me empathic or intuitive, but it's important for me to align myself with people who I get a good vibration with, a good vibrational flow with. So for me, I always say love is my religion and music is my heartbeat. So music is it's the ultimate vibration. It is the one thing I know that connects people instantly, regardless of race, culture, language. It's a universal language, right?
It's true.
So music was huge for me. When I was young, I played the violin for 11 years. My mother was a piano teacher. She was in the Tabernacle Choir. Having 3 brothers and 3 sisters, believe it or not, everyone had a different style of music they loved. I had a brother who was into classic rock, another brother who was into indie rock, a sister into country, a sister who was a dancer who loved pop. And I later found dance music was really one of my many loves, and I of course performed in a lot of musical theater, so Broadway was something that I loved. But music was this extra level. I remember I told you when I was 6, I saw Oliver, and then later The Wizard of Oz, and music was this extra layer that transported me a step further than just the stories and the visuals. So I always wanted to actually do music. For the first year in college, I was a music composition major. But I wanted to create pop music. I didn't know what, but I just knew that. But I couldn't play the guitar.
Yeah.
I was decent on the keys. I could read music and play chords, but I couldn't sit down and play like Stevie Wonder.
Right.
And growing up where I did, as I told you, there were so many talented kids that would just outshine so they could perform and play their music. So I got frustrated. I got frustrated and ended up changing my major, but that passion was ignited in me even back then. I just don't think I knew what I wanted to do with it. So it was about 4 years ago, I was doing a lot of traveling across the world, and the electronic music industry was really bubbling up with all these music festivals all over the world. And it lit something in me that I think we've all had those moments where we're going along and then we're like, I have to do this. Now's the time. Now I know what I want to do with it. So I went back to school, which is kind of crazy, really, when you think about it. I was like at the peak of my career as a makeup artist.
Right.
And I sold my condo. I went back to school. I also had a side interior design firm business that I did for several years with a business partner named Adam Hunter, who's doing some incredible things with design. But again, another career, we don't have time for all of this, but another career that came sort of organically by demand. So some of my celebrity clients liked my place and started asking me to design their homes. And I designed with Adam. Our first project was Kate Somerville's skincare clinic on Melrose Place. Interestingly enough, Kate's been a really great friend over the years, and watching her grow her brand from a tiny little three-room facial clinic on Melrose Place into this global brand. What a school ground to have a friend like that and to support her and to bring my clients into her clinic because she did the best facial work and had amazing products. So back to music, I just had to do music. So I went back to school, night school, cut my income consciously in almost a third, and invested my resources back into music. And that was about 4 years ago. So I spent a year in school and then started writing and producing. It took a little time to get that going, but then one of my teachers actually is now my music partner. We just had this rare click. I noticed he was really talented, but didn't know what he wanted to do with his music.
Yeah.
I brought this vision, and he was like ignited by that. And we started working together, and we've now released one single, and we have a lot of unreleased music that we're getting ready to drop. So it's mostly electronic dance music, but we're moving our new stuff more into the mainstream market with more vocal tracks, more things that are personally meaningful to us. So I'm excited to start releasing that. And our music act is known as JÆMISSON. And that name came to me in a unique way. But our music mission and message is one that celebrates the light within us all and reminds us that we are all connected, and that when we work together, we create a synergy and a harmony on the planet. And we could literally change the way this earth is if we step into the heart zone and set aside our differences and see what magic we can create. So I'm excited for the next 10 years for what's unfolding on planet Earth. And I hope that in some way this music project that we've been working on and getting ready to make more public will be something that reaches maybe some of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly know it will, because music it's such and so impactful to people nowadays. I mean, even people that are going through it in life, I mean, the first thing they do whenever they wake up is like, let me play my favorite song, and then it expresses emotions. And, there's music out there that make people feel a certain way that isn't always necessarily the most positive, but it's whatever works for that person, because we all have a different taste. Somebody might be a hardcore, big time rap artist. And then, like you said, somebody might be into the EDM. And speaking of EDM, it's crazy seeing where that's gone over the past years. Yeah. You got festivals blowing up, and I've made connections with and have friends, and they're going all to all these EDM concerts and venues, and I'm thinking, man, I haven't, because Skrillex, they came out of like nowhere and blew it up with the whole EDM side of things, and I get a kick out of music, and it can really change lives. And one of my biggest idols has always been Michael Jackson, within the music industry.
Incredible performer. I call him Prince Michael because he really was in his field like a prince, like a king. He brought a special energy through his music that all of us have been touched by and will remember. Whenever his songs come on, people instantly, it just transports us and connects us. So it's funny, Julianne Hough just released, like I said, her new single Transform, 9 years since her last music release. So watching that for her, and she said to me in private that before, when she was releasing country, that she felt like a fraud. And I was like, what do you mean? You're like crazy talented. She said, well, it wasn't that I wasn't, using my talent, but she said, I was focusing on what I thought people would like, what they would respond to. And she said there was this level of inauthenticity that I didn't know yet how to bring out my true voice. And that's what she's now doing. She said after her recent performance of Transform that for the first time, she felt so liberated to perform something that she felt like was her true voice. And that, just to live, I've known her for 12 years, to live to see that, and what a process it took for her to get to that point. And I know this is going to just open the doors for a whole new generation of music for her, and her ability to connect dance with it, because dance is huge for her. And that's, I think, why I love dance music, is that the vibration of dance music gets people moving, which activates energy that's sometimes locked up deep inside of us, and it brings us together. So here's to you, Julianne, for being a huge inspiration and for courageously stepping back into something that you love so much. And boy, it's worth. By the way, your own music is amazing, so don't ever think that you are a fraud. But you said something I wanted to circle back about. A little ways back, you were talking about illusions and this. I'll use this example of Julianne. We all have times in life where we're trying on shoes. We're using masks to sort of test the waters of a part of ourselves maybe that we're not sure of. There's maybe someone we're modeling that we hope to become. And those masks can serve us actually as a way to step into energies that allow us to discover who we really are. Sometimes when we do that, we're hiding parts of ourselves by masking. So we're obscuring the light of who we are. And the pain that sometimes creates can take years to unmask and then bring out the authentic self. So whatever the process is for people, makeup is a lot of fun because it deals with both illusions and masks and authenticity expressed. So you can use something like makeup anywhere in that spectrum, and helping people use that as a tool of expression. It's fun. A lot of my younger clients, they love exploring. They play with colors. They're more, they pick up on trends quickly. They're still figuring out who they are, and that's fun for them. But usually my more established clients, I don't want to say older because I mean, we all could be, who knows, our souls could be thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And when I have a client like Julianne Hough, who came at 18, she seemed like a full-grown woman. This woman was a fireball from the beginning. So age really has nothing to do with it. But when you have a more established person, they usually know what their range of looks are. Their looks more honed in. They're not as experimental. But someone like Julianne Hough has been so much fun to work with over the years because she constantly is experimenting. She loves trying on different avenues and going in and exploring and picking up the pieces of herself that she finds through that. And that's really magical. So I encourage people through image, and maybe you don't do a lot with makeup or you don't feel you're very talented with artistry. It doesn't matter. It's part of the process of discovering and expressing the self. I definitely encourage you to try on different shoes of the self. And what's cool to see is also, you've probably seen this, when people, a lot of life is about perception. People perceive us based off of initial image. And some people who are more perceptible, they pick up on vibes, but not everyone is like that. Some people are a lot more either in their own little narrow perception, or they're not as sensitive. They don't pick up on things right away. But one of the fun things about perception is you can experiment with the way you present yourself through image and watch how people will treat you differently based on what you present. And sometimes you'll trigger things within them, but it makes it a lot of fun. Like, who's been to a really fun costume party and, you see how people turn into these different, versions of themselves based on and it's fun for a night. But then what I love about makeup too is it lasts a day and you wash it off, and really the essence of you are still there.
True.
It's a great tool for self-exploration and self-excavation.
That's deep. But you look at impersonators. I mean, they do that for a living.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just like an Elvis Presley, or like they're trying to be like him. And man, that's incredible. Spencer, I definitely want to be respectful of your time. I mean,
thank you.
We could talk hours, my brother. I'll tell you that.
We could.
But man, I just want to say I appreciate you for just being you, being who you are, and it's inspiring for somebody like myself just coming out here to Los Angeles and just to feel so connected to someone that you just met on social media. Like I'm a firm believer anything can happen in this life as long as you have a desire and a thought to make it happen. But most importantly, that you're able to go out and execute on what it is that you want to do. So before we end the show here, where can the audience, where can the listeners and the viewers find you? Whether it's maybe your website, social media, what are some of the outlets they can find you on?
So for my music, I'm at JÄMISSON on Instagram, or JÄMISSON.com, and the spelling's kind of unique, JAEMISSON. And then for my artistry, my page is at Spencer Barnes LA, SpencerBarnesLA. And also, I should mention, I have a huge amount of things for my two business partners. The last few years, another thing that sort of deterred me from music happening quicker was an opportunity to step in and create a beauty brand. And that's the name of the brand, Spencer Barnes LA. And we have 3 products right now. And you can find those through my page or through our website, SpencerBarnesLA.com. But the essence of the brand is science and beauty meeting and delivering products. Like, there's so many beauty products out there these days. And I didn't want to just create another one of something out there. So we worked on doing something innovative. We created the neck sculpting one first, which is designed to lift and firm and tighten this area. And I also like that it brings awareness to the throat chakra. It's a zone of personal expression. We have the facial sculpting one, which followed for deep expression lines and creases. For those who don't want to do invasive things, it's a great way to daily take care of your skin, nourish it, and use technology to soften the effects of our environment and aging. And last is the lip plump and sculpt filler. It's a lip plumping ingredient that is like no other. It's the first to mimic lip injection. So I hope if you haven't tried those, that you'll check those out. But even more importantly, to all of you, thank you for listening. And in your own quest for beauty, my invitation is simple: to learn to see and cultivate beauty in all its forms in your life. And when you do, watch the world and your life and those around you blossom like an incredible Garden of Eden. Life is truly magical, and when you focus in on the real magic of beauty, it's amazing what will unfold in your life. So that's my message. Very simple. It's learn and cultivate beauty in all its forms.
Straight up. I'm a mic dropper right there. I'm gonna attach all the links in the description and the bio below. Okay, check Spencer out. Incredible as always. And Spencer, I appreciate you.
It's been so fun. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.